And so I'm going to ask that everybody who's a helper and instructor introduce themselves with their name, your field of study, and if you could be an emoji, which one would you be and why? Okay, so now you have like a couple seconds to think. So my name is Anna Miller-Kyle. I am a PhD student at UC Santa Barbara, and I study community ecology. And I would probably be the hug emoji because it's like just sort of like an unclear but supportive gesture looking emoji. So it's just always like, yeah, you're doing great, but it doesn't really look like a hug. So yeah, that's my emoji. And I'll just go with who I can see next. Haley, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley. I'm another one of the instructors slash helpers. I'm a biogeochemist and ecosystem ecologist, specifically in aquatic ecosystems. And if I was an emoji, I'd probably be the poop emoji, A, because it's my favorite, and B, because I study a lot of nutrient cycling, and nutrients all come back to poop. So yes. All right, and next to me is Georgia.
Hi, I'm Georgia. I'm a postdoc currently at UC Santa Barbara. My pronouns are she, her, and if I could be an emoji, I mean, I was gonna say poop, but I guess I'll go with any one of the many really cute animals that create the poops. So there you go. All right, and Caroline.
My name is Caroline. I'm a PhD student at UCSB, study ecosystem ecology, work in high elevation lakes in the Sierra. And I was just trying to look at like what my most used emoji is. And I think it's by such a long margin that it's embarrassing, the one with the little heart eyes. Because I think usually if I want to include a picture, it's just to indicate like, I love this, or like, I love you. So yeah, that one. Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam, PhD student at UCSB, interested in disease ecology, community ecology-esque things. If I was emoji, or my most frequently used emoji is the shaka, which is kind of ironic because like I think I'm chill, but I'm not that chill, but I still use the shaka all the time. But yeah, stoked for another day of R.
Hey everyone, I'm Bart. I'm also a PhD student at UCSB. I study primarily kelp forests and in particular predator-prey interactions and sort of what controls how strongly predators and prey interact. Let's see. I think the emoji that comes to mind for me is this cool crab emoji. That is the one I use often.
That's awesome. Anyway, I got that off of icebreakers for kindergarten or like elementary school kids. So now you all know. Okay, so I just want to remind everybody of the schedule. It's going to look really similar to yesterday's schedule. We're going to have 3-hour-long sessions that are active teaching, and each one is going to be followed by, the first 2 are going to be followed by a 15-minute break, and then we're going to have a hour-long lunch break and come back in the afternoon to do, play more with the things we've learned or play more with data sets that you have that you want to try to do those things with. And so the first session this morning I'm going to be leading, and it's about sort of data management and thinking about how to keep yourself organized and how to take organization that you put on your computer and make it talk nicely to R. And it's going to build a lot on stuff that we did yesterday. So I have a few sort of like, if you were stuck on certain points yesterday, now's a good time to tell a helper. If you weren't able to get an R project started in your folder, message one of the helpers or just message the group, and we'll make sure that you have somebody to help you figure that out. If you didn't get a data raw folder in your working directory or the data set downloaded online, those are also things that are going to help kind of walk us through today's process. So if I'm going to keep talking, but if anyone has had problems with those things, let us know. Let's see, we're going to follow that up by doing some data tidying stuff led by Haley, and then ending the day with some really awesome data viz from Sam, and I'm so excited to learn from both of them because they're both wizards. Let's see, if you need assistance at any point, we have so many helpers and we're so excited. When I'm a helper, I'm like, can't wait to answer questions. So like, please, please, please ask questions anytime you get stuck. The helpers are here to help. If it's a more straightforward question, they can answer questions in one-on-one conversations with all of them. All of them have helper in their name, so you can send them a direct message in the chat. And let's see, if you think it's a question that maybe more people, probably a lot of your questions are questions that people other than yourself are going to have. So you're more than welcome to post them in the chat to everybody as well, because other people might be stuck in the same place. I find that really validating whenever I Google a help message for myself. Let's see, if you ever need help, you can post in the chat, as I said, or you can raise your hand. So let's practice with reactions again, just to make sure everyone remembers where those are. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a little like reactions button. If everyone could just practice raising your hand, that means I need help. Sweet. And then if we're ever sort of checking in with you all to say like, are we ready to move on? You can use the thumbs up reaction. So now if everyone could use the thumbs up reaction, just so I know everybody's in there. And if you want to put your favorite emoji or what emoji you'd be, you can practice using the chat by putting that in now. Okay. Oh, yay, another poop emoji. I think that was Haley. Okay, so let's see. A couple other things. You're welcome to leave your camera on, and we like seeing people's faces, so feel free to do so. I would ask that everybody just make sure that if you're logging in and on, you just make sure that you're muted at any time that you're not, that we're presenting or presenting material. Yeah, and then the last thing I'll do before I get started is just to remind everybody of our code of conduct, which you can find here. Oh gosh, I should have had this open. And also, if you want to, if you feel like at any point you need to report a code of conduct violation, you can also find that on our website. So I'm just posting these links in the chat so everybody knows where those are, because we really want to encourage a welcoming learning community and make sure that everybody is feeling like they're welcome here and getting the information they need in a safe place. All right, so I wanted to just remind everybody from yesterday that we have an awesome website for this. I'm going to share my screen. We have a website that's going to live on the internet until Haley decides to blow up her GitHub account. So at any point during the session or after the session, this is always going to be there, barring unforeseen circumstances. And it has our schedule on it and all of our instructors. And it also has the schedule for today. If you were here yesterday and missed some of the scripted and live coding, these are all hyperlinked here now, so you can go through and work through the things that we did in the sessions that had live coding in them yesterday. We also have all the setup instructions that hopefully you've done at this point because you're here on day 2. And then I just added this yesterday. This is a 2-day workshop. We don't have enough time to go through everything that R has to offer, and R is just like, you can do data analysis, you can do data management, you can do data visualization. There are a lot of really cool things. You can make websites. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with R that we're not going to cover today, but many of our helpers have sort of learned these things on their own or found learning communities that encourage them. And so I would encourage, I think everyone in this UCSB group is here because we're part of a learning community that's pretty grassroots, where we all sort of taught each other through, shared knowledge from the ground up. And so, we'd like to carry that forward to all of you. And so there's resources on the website for things you can get involved with if you're at UCSB or in Santa Barbara, things that are more virtual or sort of beyond UCSB that you can kind of check out, either internet-based resources or things that might be available in your local area. Especially I would plug Our Ladies Global. There's a lot of local chapters that are they do really fun things. There's also a lot of other things you can do in R, which we're not going to cover today, including sort of these other applications that talk to R and let you create websites and really beautiful visuals if you decide to sort of walk down the data science world in the future. And then we're also not covering statistics today, but I know a lot of you are interested in ecological statistics, and it is an opaque box of wonder for many of us who do ecology. So I just wanted to put in here a few of my favorite R-based statistics courses where people have done a really good job of putting their materials online. And I've learned probably most of my statistics from like these resources and a few others. So, so these are all things that we're not covering today, but with the foundations in R that we're providing you for this workshop, you will potentially be able to work through those and understand them a little bit more, hopefully. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this, but share something else to get us started for today. Just because I love it. Okay, cool. Community. There's a community around R. So this morning I'm going to talk about, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but thinking about how do you organize complex projects that might include lots of data sets, might include a lot of different analyses and data cleaning steps or data visualization steps, different drafts that you're sending to collaborators. Basically, how do you organize things on your computer, and then how do you make sure that that organization talks to R in a really nice way? And we covered this a little bit yesterday, talking about our projects in RStudio, but I'm going to re-emphasize that point because it's something I fairly recently adopted into my workflow, and it's something that I feel very strongly about now that I sort of had this epiphany about data organization. So I'm going to stop for a second talking, and I want everybody to sort of think through a project that you maybe are working on or will be working on, and come up with the types of files and things that might be associated with that project. So, you know, what kinds of files and folders will you need to organize that project? And maybe make a list of those. And then as you're sort of going through that, think about how those are related to each other. Like, these are all data files, these are all script files, these are all, you know, Word documents or other text edit documents, and maybe post in the chat maybe different file names that you might put into a project to help keep yourself organized. So I reposted the questions in the chat. Cool. Getting some answers. Any others other than raw data and data folder? Everybody hasn't had their second cup of coffee this morning. Okay, cool. We got an analysis folder, some XLS files. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, awesome. Okay, everybody's still thinking about just R, and that's fine. But I think, yeah, as you start to do projects, especially if you're in a graduate graduate school position, you will have, you know, a lot of other associated documents and things associated with projects, including maybe drafts of manuscripts that you're writing, or if you are writing reports to clients, if you work in consulting, you might be wanting to sort of like put those reports somewhere where they're all organized in some way, and those might be, you know, Word documents or PDF documents or some other format. And so it's like, it's a nice way to sort of think about like what parts of this project need to be in this same place on my computer, and lots of PDFs, so that I can find them and, you know, and be able to find them easily. So I'm going to go ahead and open the project folder that we were working in yesterday. And this is the part where you all are going to get to work with me, because we're going to impose some organization structure on the folder that we kind of just like threw things into yesterday. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm just going to share my desktop so I don't have to keep stopping and starting the sharing thing. Okay, so I am in the folder for the workshop that we started yesterday. So if everyone wants to navigate themselves here, just to reorient ourselves to what's in here and why it's here, because, you know, we've only done this once at this point. The R ecology workshop.rproj icon is something that Haley walked you through creating first thing in the morning. If you do not have this, this is going to be crucial for the rest of this part of the workshop. So if you don't have it, please message a helper and they can help you get it set up. We also have these two .r objects in here. Those are the two scripts that we started for the two different workshops yesterday. So Intro to R was the session that I led, and then Starting with Data was the session that Tatum and Caroline led yesterday. We also have this data raw folder. So we've started some data file organization in here for ourselves, which includes this portal data joined.csv file that we downloaded from the internet. Again, if you don't have this and this, please post in the chat because it will be necessary going forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to organize this. And I'll walk through a few things that I think about. I will not say what I say, not as I do, I would say, in terms of file organization, because I am not even going to show you one of my dissertation chapter folders because they're scary. But it makes sense to me, and I promise I'll fix it before I submit it online. But I think usually I try to specify whether data is raw or manipulated data. And there's a lot of different reasons to do this. One of it is that you might change data and then forget how it came back to you from a lab or from the field and want to go back and verify that something weird that happened isn't because you misdid something and because maybe there was something weird in the data to begin with. If you're in graduate school and hoping to publish your data, it is crucial to have raw data. There are a lot of some pretty traumatic to some researchers, notable cases where people haven't been able to produce raw data for their projects and backup results that they found, to the detriment of usually early career scientists whose careers are sort of wrecked a little bit by that process. So it's always a good idea to create a data raw folder that's like, these are my raw data sheets I got back from the soil lab. This is my raw data I got back from entering everything in the field. Maybe this folder or some other folder includes scanned copies of your raw data sheets, just so if something weird happened between there and data transfer into Excel or some other spreadsheet program, you can go back and verify those. If there's a data raw folder, I also want to put a folder where I can find data that I've manipulated in some way or transformed. So this may not be relevant to all data sets, but oftentimes the raw data sheets are not what you're going to want to analyze and visualize in R. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder in here, just called data. And right now that's empty because we haven't manipulated and exported any data, but we might need that later. The other thing that's kind of messy right now in this file organization is that all of my scripts are kind of living in this home directory, and I might want to I might be working in multiple programming languages, which is something I do, and it breaks my heart. So I might want to indicate that I have different scripts for different programming languages, or hopefully you're only working in one programming language and you can just these are all my R scripts. So I like to create a code or R or some other folder that indicates kind of what the what's code? Where can I find those things? So I'm going to call this code, but you can, again, for every project, you might call it something else. And I'm going to go ahead and drag these into the code folder. So I know things are different on PC. So however you get the things into the code folder on a PC. One last thing that you can or cannot do here if you want, if you start having projects that are sort of multi-step projects, like you have to clean the data and then you have to analyze the data in 3 different ways, and maybe you're making different scripts for these things. I personally like to give these a numbering system just so I know the order of things. And it can be helpful too if you're trying to publish data or code online for people to use again, which I would highly encourage and is becoming pretty much standard practice in ecology fields for publishing in peer-reviewed journals. So it's just a good idea to be like, if I had never seen this folder before and I was trying to redo my analysis, how can I make it the easiest possible for the people using my code? So one thing might be you might put a 1 in front of intro and a 2 in front of this, just to say like this is the first thing and this is the second thing. And then I'm not going to talk about it today, but thinking about like how you set up metadata files is also going to be a good thing to do. But I also I'm not going to teach you that because it's a different thing. Okay, and then if this was a dissertation chapter, I might have a folder that was like drafts, so like things I was writing for papers, or a dissertation chapter. And within every one of these folders, you can have different organization. So I guess if you want, you can, I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to just kind of like organize, put different folders in this directory that you might use for a project. Bart has his hand raised.
There was a question in the chat that I didn't quite know how to answer, and it was about where the R history files should go. And I didn't know if you had any recommendations on how to deal with those. Anna.
I don't actually have an R history project folder file in mind. Is this something that
I don't either, because I don't save. Like sometimes RStudio will ask you if you want to save so that you can reopen to exactly where you were, and I don't do that either. And so I didn't know if any of the other helpers did do that and kept records of that.
I don't save my history, partly because it makes things sort of scary next time I open R. Is this something that's related to what you unchecked with people yesterday, Haley, or?
I feel like it should be, but I just checked. I have an R history too. I guess, Rebecca, to answer your question, I would just leave it. Just like don't open it and don't put it anywhere, because it's not something, I guess in like a worst case, like everything burns down scenario, you can go back and look to see what you've done. But I would just leave it be.
Cool. All right, so hopefully everybody's got, let's see, if everybody is, Sam's got some great tips. If everybody is ready to move on from this organization step, do you want to give me a thumbs up in the chat or in your reactions? Sweet. All right, so let's move on. I want to spend some time on this .rproj object that's living in our working directory, because I think this is one of the really wonderful things about RStudio that makes my life just, I love opening R. And so before I used our projects, I did not always love opening R. So Haley created that yesterday, and I just want to walk through a little bit of what that does for you and why you might want to sort of work this into your workflow. So, okay, does everybody have RStudio closed? Close RStudio if it is open. And let's go ahead and just open RStudio from your applications. I'm going to sort of show by telling why this R project is a really nice thing. Okay, so I'm going to open RStudio from wherever my applications are on my computer. And And it's going to open me in a slowly but surely. Why? I don't know why it sometimes opens me in an associated project and sometimes doesn't. If any of the helpers know the answer to this, I don't know the answer to this. Okay, it's still telling me that I'm in this workshop, and that's fine. If you look up here, it says that I'm in an R project. So this is a good way to sort of start yourself in RStudio and be like, where does R think I'm living right now? Sometimes it will just not open you in a project. So if people have this, the name of their R project up here, can you let me know by putting a thumbs up? Okay, so some people have this thing saying, yes, I'm in the R project that I created yesterday. Some people don't. I'm going to go ahead and close this project. So if you have it open, just press close project here. Okay, so now everybody should have this project none. Can everybody give me a thumbs up? Man, it is really annoying in Zoom not to be able to see the participants list. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're with project none now? Anybody? Okay, people are putting thumbs up. Great. So what does this mean in RStudio? This means that your computer doesn't actually know where you are. And the first indication I got of this when I wasn't in an RStudio project is that there's sort of this messy, terrible, everybody's saying what my computer looks like in the background file organization here, as opposed to the really nice file organization that you might remember we were seeing yesterday that just had the data and the R scripts that we were working with along with our R project. So let's go ahead, and we're not in an R project and we're trying to work in RStudio. I'm just going to kind of show you a function. I'll write it in here. Workflows. Show you a function to make sure that you can use at any time to make sure that you're in the right place on your computer, that R is going to find the things you think it needs to find for you. And that is the get working directory function, which is get WD with the parentheses. And remember, functions always have these parentheses. And I'm actually going to run get working directory, get WD without any arguments in the function. So let's go ahead and run that. And again, you can run it with Control Enter on a PC, Command Enter on a Mac, or with this run button up here. Okay, so now we look down here in the console, and it says that I'm in users Anna. Okay, that is like the top of my computer. This is not in any of the folders that I've created. It's not organized in any way. And so let's go ahead and play with this, right? Let's go ahead and try to load the data set that we loaded in the starting with data session yesterday. So we're going to repeat a couple lines of code that we used yesterday. Remember that we're going to use the function read_CSV from the tidyverse. So we need to load the tidyverse first. Remember, the tidyverse is a package in R, and those are kind of like books on a shelf, and you have to take the books off the shelf with the library function. And I'm just going to write library tidyverse and then run enter. Oops, make sure spelling errors are the biggest error in my R experience. Okay. So now let's go ahead and try to load the surveys CSV that we were working with yesterday into our RStudio environment. And remember, we assigned this object to a name, which was surveys. And then we use the assignment operator, which is this little arrow created by the less than and the dash. And then we use the read_CSV function and created a file path, which you remember from yesterday was in our subfolder, which was data raw. And then with the slash, and then the name of that CSV, which was portal data joined.csv. Okay, let's try to load that into R. Oh no, we got an error. It says that it does not exist within the current working directory. So this is something that I think I fought with in R for the first like 2 years of working in R, was just trying to figure out like, where am I on my computer and how do I tell my computer that I'm living where I am? And that's what's so great about R projects, is that it minimizes or eliminates this sort of like starting up in R and trying to tell R where you're actually at. So let's go ahead and fix this. And like anything in R, there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can either come up here to the projects where I told you to click none and click open project, or you'll see that I have a list of these projects that I've recently opened. So you can find the project that we're in either with open project and then navigate to that folder on your computer. You can click on a recent project if you're sort of continually working with the same projects, or you can come up to the top left and go file and then open project, and that will take you to the same place where you can find those same things, or again, recent projects. There's actually an easier way to do this, and this is the way that I always use our projects, and I'm going to show it to you now. So I'm going to go ahead and close RStudio again. Oh boy. And then I'm going to come to the folder that I was in for the workshop. So again, find wherever it was that you are storing and organizing the information for this workshop, click on it, and you'll see that there's this R project icon in here. To open a project directly from your computer, like you would navigate into any other file or folder, just double click this R project icon. And R will take a little bit to think about itself. And then I think I should be in my R project. So it opens up a new window of RStudio, where if I come up here to the top right, it says I'm in this R project, so R ecology workshop. That's where I think I need to be. My files now look like what they're supposed to look like within this project that I've been working on. So I have all my new data organization that I was keeping track of. All my code is in here. And then there's a couple other things that's kind of cool. I think you can have multiple projects running in R at one time, but I would think that would be scary. I don't do that. But you can also tell that you're in a project by coming down to wherever RStudio is indicating that it's open in your computer. On a Mac, this is sort of the little pop-up menu. But I don't know where that is on a PC. Maybe one of the PC helpers can put that in the chat, but it'll show this little banner underneath the R circle icon that says, oh, I'm in a project. So that means now RStudio knows that I'm associated with this file organization that I created. Has everybody gotten to where I am currently? Can you give me a thumbs up? Sweet. Are there any questions before I keep going that are coming up in the chat that somebody wants to mention? Okay. What does this do? Let's go ahead and try to run these same lines of code. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, everybody. Let's go ahead and reorganize the same lines of code. So workflows. Let us try to find out our working directory again. And again, this is the get working directory function. So get WD with the parentheses, nothing inside of it. Press Command or Control Enter. Command Enter on a Mac, Control on a PC. And now it's telling me that I'm in this users on a desktop R ecology workshop. So now R knows where I am and it knows what files and folders are associated with my project. And let's find out if that helps us with our survey data. So we closed and opened RStudio. So we're going to have to reload the tidyverse package. So library takes it off the shelf, and then Command or Control Enter to run that. And then let's see if we can load the surveys data set. And sometimes you'll see a lot of these things pop up in your console as things are running. As long as it doesn't say error, a lot of that is just things that are running in the background. So you don't need to worry about those things. And sometimes it gives you interesting information that might help you solve errors later. Okay, let's try to run the surveys data, load the surveys data again. So again, we're going to make it an object called surveys, assign it with the assignment operator, less than sign dash. We're going to use the read underscore CSV function. And now we're going to put the file path in here, which is the data raw folder with a slash, and then portal data joined.csv. And let's go ahead and run that. Okay, now it's loading into my environment, which I can see here on the right, like we were seeing yesterday. It's giving me a bunch of information about this data set, and R found it, which is the important part. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all I want to cover about our projects. Does anybody have any questions about our projects and kind of thinking about file and folder organization on your computer? If you don't have a question, you can give a thumbs up.
I have a general statement. I usually have like 18,000 raw data files in my R project. And so sometimes if I'm like trying to figure out what's the most recent one, a trick that I like is read underscore CSV parentheses and hit tab. And then I'll just pop up the most recent raw folders that have been updated. So if you have guys ever figure out like, I don't know which one's the most recent one, that usually helps me.
Thanks. There's also a bunch of really cool stuff living in RStudio that I'm just going to pause and show everybody as you catch up. But I think it's under the tools menu at the top. There are a bunch of keyboard shortcuts in RStudio that I use a few of them just for the things that I normally do. Like the assignment operator has a keyboard shortcut, but I can't remember it because it's like writing in a password. I just like type it in. So if anybody knows what that one is, maybe people were putting it in the chat. But yeah, so keyboard shortcuts are a really useful thing. Let's see, there's also, I thought there was a, where are the cheat sheets? Does anybody know where those are? Any of the helpers? There's a place to find cheat sheets and really useful things. Anyway, sometimes I like to just explore the top icons in RStudio, and sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I've like Googled that every time I was looking for it, and it's living right here in the place that I've been working. So sometimes it's nice to sort of have those epiphany moments. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about one of my favorite packages. This is like package show and tell. And it's related to this because I think the theme of today is kind of taking things from our language and computer language and trying to make them into more sort of like human-friendly ways of using, playing with your data sets. So that's kind of the theme of this package. And it's called the Here package. And I'm pretty sure Haley had you install it yesterday. So it should already be in your packages list on your RStudio. Again, I've been loading packages in the scripts that I've been running, mostly because if I want my scripts to be reproducible by other people, if I don't tell the R environment that anybody's working in to load those packages, it won't, and then things might not run. But you can also load packages by coming to the packages tab here at the bottom right and finding that package out of a package list. And this is a good way to see, like, is a package on my computer or not, or do I need to install it? So let's go ahead and load the Here package. I'm going to make a new section in my script because this is kind of a new theme. So again, that is in code insert section. And I'm going to call it Here package intro. Okay. So let's load the Here package take it down from the shelf with the library function. Library, and the package is just called Here. Again, if you don't have the here package yet, you can type in the console. I usually do this just because I don't want to keep reinstalling packages every time I load my script. You can type in install packages, and then you need to put it in quotation marks when you're installing it here. So if you don't have the here package yet, you can run this line of code. If you do have the here package, which hopefully you do from yesterday, you can go ahead and load it up here by running that. And it gives me a little message that says here starts at where I am, which is in my project folder. And that's going to come in handy when you start to tell here where you want it to go. Okay, so up until now, if we look back at our code at this surveys and how we loaded it in ReadCSV, you can see that this is kind of in computer speak a little bit because we have this like the subfolder and then a dash to indicate that inside that subfolder, there's something that we're looking for. And this, you know, as long as you're working in our projects, hopefully won't ever get really, really long. But you could end up having multiple subfolders depending on your file organization. So you might have data raw, and then you might have like a bunch of body size data, and then a bunch of sequencing data. And those you might want to indicate, like you might have like 3 or 4 files associated with each of those. And you just want to like keep that organized so that people who are looking through your data, including yourself in the future, know what each of those things is. So we've been sort of telling R to find things using this sort of computer speak of these dashes to sort of indicate this file and folder organization. But the here package sort of bypasses that, and maybe it'll be useful to you, maybe not. I really like it. So let's go ahead and see what the main function of the here package is, which is actually just the here function. So let's just type it in without anything in the parentheses first. The here function. So let's type in here and then parentheses and then command enter or control enter. And again, it's giving me what I got when I loaded it as a library. It's telling me where on my computer R thinks I am, which is inside my project. Then with the here function, I can take this ReadCSV function and the file path that is sort of in computer speak and translate it into sort of like a list of file folders and to find the file that I'm looking for using commas instead of dashes. And this seems to be less of a problem now, but I've had issues in the past with switching between Macs and PCs with sort of file path designation. So if there's ever sort of file path designation confusion in something you're working on from somebody else's scripts, you might need to convert it to either something that your computer understands with forward and backslashes, or the here function sort of bypasses sort of any of that confusion. So I'm going to make a new data set that's going to be called surveys here. And again, this is a name for an object I'm going to assign in R with the assignment operator, which is this little arrow we keep doing. I'm going to use the read CSV function, and then I'm going to do the nesting dolls thing that Tatum did yesterday. So I'm going to put the here function inside the read CSV function. So I'm going to read CSV, and then I'm going to type in here. So this is indicating that here something is going to happen within this function that's going to be passed to read CSV, the function. And so instead of doing this file path with the forward and backslashes or whatever those happen to be for your computer, I'm going to just name each of those subfolders that is in my working directory, followed by a comma, and then ending with the name of the file that I'm looking for. So I'm going to write it out and then walk through that just one more time. So I'm going to say, okay, this is in the data raw folder, again, in quotation marks. And then I'm going to actually put a comma and say, now that you've gone to the data raw folder, R, find this data set, which is called portal data joined.csv. The nice thing about this is that, especially if your file paths get really long, the comma allows you to press enter in between those two, and R will still continue to read this as one continuous function. So it's also not only a nice way to sort of translate those slashes to things that at least I understand better, it also kind of keeps your code sort of nice and compact, which is always nice if you're trying to work through code and debug and stuff like that. So this is doing exactly what the file path we were doing earlier was doing, except instead of the slash, it's saying, okay, take the here function, go into this subfolder, and then find this file there with the comma in between those. So let's go ahead and press enter and see what happens. Or run this, sorry, command return or control return for the run button. So now we've gotten the exact same CSV loaded as a data frame into R that we had before using the file paths, but now we have this nice sort of like tidy way of keeping track of where that thing lives with commas using the here function. So it's handy, load surveys with here function. I really like this package. It's not for everyone, and that's fine, but I thought I would share it with you because it's one of my favorites. There's a couple last things that I'm actually going to wrap up now a little bit early, but there's a couple of last things that are available to you to explore at the end of the workflows curriculum document. If you've noticed that on our website, there's hyperlinks for each of the sessions that we've been doing. There's a couple things that talk at the end of my script about this workflows session, talking about how to sort of think about organizing your code within your code. So how to keep your scripts succinct and clear for people to share, for you to share with you and future you and with other people. And then there's also sort of a plug for GitHub, which is what we've been using as the website for this, but it's a nice, our projects talks really nice to GitHub, and GitHub is just another tool that some people use to kind of keep track of themselves and make sure their data and code are all backed up and stuff. So I'm not going to talk about it here because it's like a whole can of worms that I'm also trying to learn as well, but they are really useful ways that RStudio is making it easier to talk to other programs. Cool. Yeah, I think we're going to take a 15-minute break